Welcome everybody. This is the second day of the Something Green virtual wedding fair brought to you by Northumberland Waste Authority. All weekend we've been bringing you top tips for how you can have a more sustainable wedding day. And right now I'm here with Lana, the founder of the Wild Society, who's going to be talking to us about how to choose the best British blooms, why it's important to think about sustainability when you're buying your flowers, and some tips if you're planning your wedding at the moment. Hi Lana, thank you for joining us.
Hello, everyone else.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm really good. Just
So,
yeah, not happy about the weather today.
no,
I was ready for the sun.
it's really grim today. Hopefully we're going to get some sunshine soon. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed.
Oh yeah, Tuesday. Nobody contact me on Tuesday. I am not working.
I'm loving the flowers all around you. You've got a real setup happening.
Thank you. They're all British, so we use only British blooms. Some of these are actually all ones that I've grown myself.
Aha!
Yeah. So the smaller things I do it from my own cutting garden, but obviously bigger weddings I buy in from different farmers and stuff around the country.
And when people are looking at flowers, I think a lot of people might not realise that there is a sustainability issue because, you know, they're natural and, you know, you can biodegrade them. So I think people think that they are inherently sustainable. And I wondered what the issues actually are with the floral industry.
It's like one of those like hidden, like naughty eco things, because like you said, everyone just assumes it grows in the ground, it's nice, but it's the same as farming. So it's the same techniques. The further it comes from, the higher the footprint. So British farmers, we're such a garden nation that most, not all, but most British grown flowers are purely seasonal.
Mm-hmm.
Not grown in greenhouses with pesticides and all of that. And we have a really big commitment to organic growing across the UK. So you get a less carbon footprint. It's about 18 times less.
Oh, wow.
Roughly, because it's obviously different to different flowers, but as a general rule. But you can fly to Paris for the same amount as 4 bunches of imported flowers. So I straight up know what I would rather do.
It's going to be Paris, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
Paris.
No competition. It's going to be Paris. I had no idea that there was such a big footprint. And do you know where a lot of those flowers come from if they're imported from other places?
Yeah, so in the UK, florists across the UK generally use 90% imported. Mm-hmm. And it can come anywhere from South Africa to Ecuador to Kenya, Ethiopia, obviously Holland. Everyone knows about Holland. But what's ironic is that a Dutch rose, a Dutch is the same. Sorry, my mum decided to call me.
She can join in.
A Dutch rose is the same as a Kenyan rose in carbon footprint wise, even though it's coming double the distance, because in Holland they have to put so much energy into getting to grow out of season. So the key thing is with flowers is the seasonality, and like any flower that is in season is better because it's cheaper. Mm-hmm. They haven't had to force it to grow. It smells 1,000 times better. They look nicer and the quality's better. So they actually last longer in your vase or, you know, at your wedding and things like that. And I think that's one of the key selling points of British blooms, because when you buy an imported rose, it'll probably cut almost 2 weeks before you've put it into your vase. So it's like sat in a freezer and it's like traveled really far. But if you're buying a British bloom, it was probably cut like 3 days ago by a lovely little farmer in a field.
So it's going to last a lot longer afterwards.
It's going to last a lot longer. They smell so much better because they don't use as many pesticides, so it doesn't kill off the scent. And they're just generally prettier, as far as I'm concerned. I'm probably fine.
It sounds a bit like the same principle of, you know, if you buy strawberries in July, they're going to taste much better than the strawberries that you buy in December, which will be, double the price and probably not taste as nice.
Exactly. And they like kind of look a little bit funky. Like, is that a natural colour? I'm not 100% sure. It's exactly the same as fruit. If you think of it that way, it's really easy to be like, oh my God, like, how was this grown?
I haven't even thought about the fact that, you know, if I want to buy tulips in November, that they're having to be grown out of season and having to be imported. Do you have any tips on how do you know what's in season? Because I feel like I've got a grasp of food and what's in season, but I have no idea about flowers other than, you know, daffodils springtime.
My favourite, I love them. Daffodil's my absolute favourite flower on the planet. But yeah, I think the best thing is to Google. If you know you like a certain flower, just Google it and say, when is this in season? Best website for the UK is the Royal Horticultural Society, RHS, which we all know and love, of course. But yeah, they have so much information about that. You can also go on to, so I'm a member of Flowers from the Farm. So we are a British cooperative of cut flower growers. There's about 1,000 members. They're across the entire country, and they're all growers or florists who use them. So it's like a really lovely tight-knit group, and everyone's so lovely. They promote British flowers. So if you're not like in, you know, North London, because we are talking about North London, where we do have 2 amazing growers already who are urban farmers, it's about looking at like your local area. And especially like when you get out to like places like Suffolk, there's some lovely little grow on small plots, and you can get seasonal flowers to you all the time, and you know that they've only come down the lane and they're pretty and they've been grown with like love, and there's not like loads of machineries or pesticides and all the other things that go into it.
You mentioned those 2 kind of North London growers, and I'm interested in, I imagine that, you know, in London you've got a much smaller plot of land to work with than big flower farms in Sussex. So how do you make sure that you can, you know, get the flowers when you need them for people, or get the right amount of flowers when you're working with that kind of smaller space?
I'm not going to lie, it's not easy. It's a lot of work, and I think that's probably one of the bigger difference with my company versus just an imported flower florist, is that I have to think about what flowers I'm getting in 2-3 weeks ahead of time, and spend 24 hours looking at the weather, because everything depends on the weather. Where if I was buying imported, I log on 24 hours before I need them onto a website. I look at some pictures and I'm like, those are nice, I'll have them. But you don't get the same flowers, obviously, and it's not as much dedication, I find. Not that I'm like dismissing what florists do, because absolutely they're incredible, and I would love to work with exotic flowers because they're some of them are stunning, but I'm always conscious of how they've arrived and how they've been grown, and it's not something I was always conscious of. It's only something I've really understood in the last like couple of years, and now I know I can't go back.
And does it require people to be a little bit more flexible? Because, you know, if you are really depending on the weather and depending on seasonality, I guess, you know, sometimes you have to play it a little bit by ear to see what's actually going to be in bloom at the right time.
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest one is always peonies. Everyone wants peonies at their wedding. Peonies only grow in June. They're only around for June. If you want a peony outside of June, it's not from the UK. And it's travelled all the way from Kenya, and it's, you know, come in a little box. And don't get me wrong, there are some very good farms that are out in Kenya who are free trade and they're organic and they grow beautiful stuff. And in an emergency, I will use them. But you have to be very specific with who you're buying from when you buy imported, because you don't know. It's like when you buy any kind of, like you said, fruit. It's good to know where it's come from and how they've grown it. But yeah,
so if you want a sustainable wedding and you want peonies, has to be in June.
It's got to be in June. That is your only bracket. Okay.
At least you're giving people a specific thing to aim for. I like that.
If you're getting married and you absolutely love a certain type of flower, and you're like, that's all I want in my bouquet, you've got to make sure you're getting married at the right time of the year. I mean, I know that's a really big ask to be like, plan your wedding around your flowers, but if flowers are important to you, plan your wedding around your flowers. And yeah, it's important to me. So like I daffodils, so I'll get married in spring, because
you have to get married in spring so you can fill it with daffodils.
Yeah, just an entire room, just daffodils, no guests.
And what are some of the other flowers that people might be able to pick from? Because I think as well, people might not know what are native English flowers that grow really well here. They might not have an understanding of what those are.
So native is a relative term nowadays, because especially British colonials, they've been bringing back flowers from, you know, Singapore and China since before even my granny was thought of. Like with places like Kew Gardens, it's just full. So we do grow a lot of non-natives, but a very typical flower is like a David Austin rose, which is a certain type of rose. Most growers grow everything that they can, and they grow to season. So you can get most things grown in the UK, which is a massive upside for us. So it means that you can get everything that you want here instead of having to import it. But again, you have to just think about it seasonally. Popular flowers for weddings are things like this. This is Ashtarina.
That's beautiful.
This is one I prepared earlier. This is my my Blue Peter moment. Yeah, so these actually grow all year round in the UK, and they're beautiful and they last forever. Like I'm not even joking. They will last 2 weeks and still look perfect in your vase, which obviously isn't the same as you're not going to have a 2-week wedding.
Hey, you could.
But you could. If you want to take your bouquet home, then they will still look good. But they're quite common and they're used a lot. Thistles and thistles, they're really popular for weddings, and especially Scottish weddings, or anyone who's related to Scotland or just even vaguely Celtic in any kind of way. Again, we grow them here, so you don't need to get them imported. I'm a big lover of the weed. The weed, I'm doing this one, is just a flower that's in the wrong place. So I don't consider them weeds. Like cow parsley. We all know cow parsley. It's on the side of everywhere. Like I live in Finsbury Park. The entire park's full of it. But it's so beautiful, and I use it a lot in arrangements. And there's a lot to be said for foraging, especially if you're like a DIY bride. Like you can forage a lot. Like from the stuff behind me, like this is just a branch of blossom that fell out the tree. Like, but it's beautiful. It's been in this tub for about 4 days, and it's still going. So these are the kind of things that you can add in if you are more of a DIY bride with your flowers.
And do you have any tips for people who maybe do want to go out and forage and find some things for themselves, of how they can do that, you know, responsibly, and make sure that they're not just ripping plants out of the ground?
Yeah. So the general, I mean, like I'm not the end all of knowledge with foraging, but I do it a lot. The rule is, don't take it from someone's garden. Don't think it's okay because it's growing in someone's garden, but it's coming over the fence. It's still technically theirs. And don't take too much. So if you're out on a walk and you see something, don't knock down an entire tree. Only take what you need. And the biggest thing is, whatever you've taken, you use. Never take too much that you're going to have any kind of waste. And I mean, if you haven't got into foraging, do it. It's so much fun. And you get really obsessive about it. You're like, oh my God, I can see an amazing shaped branch over there. Like my friends think I'm nuts. I walk around with that in my bag.
You're going hunting. It's wild garlic for me. We've got so much around where we live, and the weekend it comes out, you just see everybody like sneaking out the houses with their baskets.
My parents live up in Pateley Bridge, and like it is everywhere there. And wild garlic pesto.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. And if people do want to go and get their own flowers, how long do you think people can keep them? So if they've got a wedding, you know, next week, should they go now, or do they have to wait till just before the day?
So if I've got a wedding on a Saturday, most weddings, I get all of my flowers delivered Wednesday, Thursday.
Okay.
So you want them to open up enough that they're looking at their best, but they haven't opened up so much that they've started to go to the other side. Yeah, they're not looking as happy, especially with things like roses. Roses are just short-lived. So if you're doing it yourself, when you get your roses, keep them in a dark, cold space. Like bathrooms are ideal. I work from a shed. I like to call it a studio. It's a shed. But yeah, like it's really nice and cold here at night, so I'm happy to leave flowers in. But in the day, I know that I can't leave anything in here that's going to get too hot. So it's moving everything to cold, dark spaces, and it lasts longer. But I'll make like table urns like this, probably on the Friday, the day before. So it doesn't all have to be done on the day. But what I would suggest to someone who is doing it themselves, don't think you can do anything on the day.
They'll be too busy.
You absolutely can't. Just manage your expectations about what you're going to be doing. Even the day before is busy. Like, if you want to do something that's more exciting like this, get a florist to do it. So if I'm doing a 14-table wedding, it will take me 8 hours and I'm fast. If you're going to do it yourself, do things like this.
Oh, lovely.
Bud vases, get them on your table. They look nice. You don't end up with as many flowers, but it is a lot easier to do yourself.
So if people are really short on time and want to try something themselves, I think that's actually something that everyone has said, you know, don't try and put out the platter yourself because you're going to be too busy to do it on the day. I'm aware that we've got about 10 minutes left of this. So if anyone watching has got some questions that they want to ask, then please pop them in the chat and I'll come to them at the end. If you've got any burning questions about what you're going to do about your floral arrangements or buying British flowers, chuck them in the chat. I had another question for you while we're waiting to see if anyone appears, which was about dried flowers and flower drying and whether you had any kind of insights into how people might be able to go about that.
Yeah, ironically, if this camera was pointed at the ceiling, my entire ceiling is full of dried flowers. Let me just try and do a tactical tip.
A tactical tip?
Tactical tip. This might go horribly wrong, guys.
I'm here for it. Let's try. Oh, they're beautiful.
Yeah, so drying flowers is a great shout. I don't really work with dried flowers. Because I don't think I'm skilled enough. Mm-hmm. There are some people out there who are just epic. Like, just go on Instagram and you will find them. And the things they do with dried flowers are incredible. My only thing I would say with dry flowers is you have to have the patience of a saint because they break. They all break. They all fall apart. You use about double the amount of what you would in fresh as well.
Okay.
So cost-wise, you're actually almost looking at the same because you've had to buy that one stem twice.
In order to allow for the fact that some of them are going to fall apart in transit.
Yeah, the shrinkage is massive. And I think quite a lot of people go for dried flowers because they're having, you know, English weddings in the summer in marquees and barns and they get hot. But when you buy British flowers, they're already conditioned to live in that temperature. So they don't wilt in places like marquees because they haven't been living in a fridge for 2 weeks.
That's very interesting. I hadn't even thought about that. Another reason to buy.
I didn't think about that until like someone said it to me and I was like, oh well, of course. Like they're already ready to go. Like they're used to that weather and that heat, which isn't that hot, let's be honest. But they haven't lived in a fridge, so it's not such a. I'm talking about them like they're alive. It's not a culture shock to them once they've gone into a nice hot room.
Have you been talking to your flowers for too long?
Yeah, flowers and the cats. We definitely have conversations, I'm not gonna lie.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's absolutely fine. And you mentioned cost there, which I think is obviously a massive thing for people when they're considering their budgets for their wedding day. And people might be, you know, they might lean towards imported because they think it's going to be cheaper for them. And I wondered whether that was a myth or whether there's some truth in it.
No, it's about like for like. I think the biggest difference is the quality. You're going to get better quality for your money buying British than you would buying imported.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to me, you want the best blooms in your things. British flowers are slightly more expensive, but that's just, you know, because they haven't had to do so many other things, and they're grown by, you know, small farms. Like a big farm is considered 6 acres. Like that's a massive flower farm.
That's a massive farm.
Yeah, that's massive. Most people grow off like 100 square foot, not 100, 1,000 square foot. So it's like every stem is their little baby. So they're so cared for and loved, and everyone is so committed to that flower. So once it's made it into your like bouquet, it's not just gone through like being cut by a machine and popped into your bouquet. It's like it's had a real journey to get there, which is always full of a lot of joy.
It's really interesting that you say that, actually, because I think that's something that's come up again and again in all of these sessions. Everyone's mentioned, you know, how much they love their producers and how, you know, knowledgeable these people are and how much love has gone into the thing that's being made, which is ultimately what everybody wants on their wedding day, to be able to like bring lots of stories and bring lots of joy. We've had a couple of questions come in through the chat. So one of them is about any tips for keeping flowers fresh at the end of the wedding day. Do you have any top tips on how people can make sure they don't get chucked away, probably, and that they actually last for a, you know, a nice amount of time afterwards?
Well, I mean, with any flowers, change the water a couple days. So, you know, when I do a wedding, I provide all the vases because I hate the waste of throwing away what is, let's be honest, 100 of those IKEA, like not cravats, you know, the little,
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. Oh, the word's gone. But yeah, everyone buys those for their weddings because they're like £1 a go. So I provide all the vases, and then you end up with nice things.
That's really interesting. So that's part of the kind of fee in the service that you offer. You bring all the vases and then take them all away.
Yeah, and I come collecting them, so there's no waste at the end. But so yeah, you know, you take home your little bunch from whatever yours on your table. You change the water. I know quite a lot of people talk about bleach. I don't like to do that because then you're putting bleach into your drain more than you should. A tiny bit of sugar, but to be honest, water, just fresh water is the best thing. If you can, rainwater.
Oh, amazing. Let's see if anyone can get a big bucket of rainwater for their flowers.
Like a bucket outside for a couple of weeks and you have the perfect thing to water your garden or put your like into your flowers, or if anyone's doing like house plants and they're like propagating, rainwater. I use it all the time. It's great.
And that's because I'm, you know, so obviously it's more sustainable because you haven't had to get loads of water out of the tap, but is there like some magical property in rainwater that makes it better for flowers?
I feel like I should probably do some proper research into this, but all I've noticed is that over my many years of gardening is that I can water my garden as much as I like, but the moment it has rained, the flowers are better. So I would put it down to all the minerals and all of that, even though, you know, live in London, it's not exactly the cleanest of air, but we are getting there. So much better. Yeah, it's got the stuff that it needs. So, and also it's free. Use it.
It's free. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Sticking a bucket outside is free. You're going to save yourself a bit of cash there, which is always a good thing.
Yeah, so that's the thing. That's my tip. Get some rainwater and put your wedding flowers into that.
And then somebody has asked, and I want to know this one as well, what your most memorable display or bouquet at a wedding has been.
It wasn't a wedding. I did an amazing like career change course in September last year, and to go like to focus more on weddings instead of just like the odd one. And we did this incredible installation with hydrangeas. I think there's a picture on my Instagram somewhere, and it is just the most beautiful thing I have ever made. And I look back at pictures and I'm like, oh my God, I think it was so gorgeous.
And that segues us really nicely into asking where people can come and find you. What is your Instagram? Where can people find out more about what you do?
So my Instagram is at the Wild Society UK, and my website is thewildsociety.co.uk. So please get in contact. I love chatting. Even if you want to have a chat, I'm pretty bored. Let's be honest, it's lockdown. Call me.
And you're based in North London and moving into doing more weddings, but you can also chat to people about, you know, sustainable flowers and what it all means.
Yeah. So I obviously do weddings, like lots of micro weddings coming at the moment, which I'm really excited about because I kind of love them. And I also do just seasonal bunches, so weekly and monthly subscriptions and stuff. So yeah, please hit me up, spam me.
There you go. You heard it here first. As everyone going spam the Wild Society's inbox with all of your questions. Thank you so much. This has been really lovely, and I feel like I've learned a lot because I've always known in the back of my head that there was an issue with flowers and sustainability, but I hadn't investigated it too much, and probably because I like buying flowers too much. So I maybe didn't want to pull back the curtain, but actually knowing that there are some kind of sustainable alternatives grown by people in the UK is very comforting. So thank you for speaking to us.
Alright, it's been my pleasure. It's been lovely.
I'm so glad. And then you guys who's watching at home, if you want to come back for our final session, it's going to be at 3 p.m. I'm going to be talking to Rachel, who was with us yesterday from the Capstan Second, and we're going to be touching on reducing and recycling on your wedding day, and also how you can make a plan for when at the end of the night everyone might be a bit tired or worse with the champagne and they're not quite sure what to do with all of the things that are left over. So join us at 3 p.m. when I'll be talking about that. Thank you so much.
Bye.